They say youth is wasted on the young. And the older I get, the more I start to agree with that. Today, we're talking about the dumb financial mistakes that I made in my 20s. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Jay. And on this channel, I give you the tools, the tips, and the tactics that you need to get the most out of your money. And I do that both by sharing the knowledge I've learned in my career in the fields of finance and accounting, my 20 years of obsessing over investing in personal finance, and as you'll see today, sharing all the dumb things I've done in my life so you can learn from my mistakes. So in a recent video, I talked about the top money mistakes that people make. But I did that in kind of generic terms, using very common examples of problems that people get themselves in. Today, we're getting much more personal, and I'm gonna tell stories straight from my life. And to kick it off, one of the dumbest money mistakes that I made in my 20s was not taking my career seriously. So while I was in college, I kind of worked my way through school, working a bunch of restaurant jobs, as a lot of college kids do.
Let me ask you a question, Joanna. What do you think of a person who only does the bare minimum?
Then, once I graduated from college and had my degree, I was kind of really just burnt out. I didn't have a lot of motivation, and I wasn't all that eager to jump straight from 8 hours of classes every day to now 8 hours working some desk job or whatever it would happen to be. So what I did is I took some time, kept on working part-time at the restaurants, spent the weekends having fun with my friends, didn't really put a focus on going out there and finding a job. At the time, it was a bad job market as it was, so the bad job market, no motivation. I ended up not really starting my career, getting my first job using my degree until I had been out of school for almost 2 years at that point. So from the time I graduated, I took about 2 years just to screw around and not take life that seriously. And at the time, who cares? I'm young, I'm having fun, whatever. But now looking back, I realize, oh, I spent 2 years working for $15 an hour when I should have and could have been working hard to get that first professional job where I would have been making, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 a year. And as I've mentioned a bunch of times on this channel, getting started early is one of the biggest things you can do to succeed financially. So all that lost income, not being able to get a 401k going right away, keeping myself in debt from school and all these other things and not making a lot of money. Those few years at the beginning that I set myself back, looking back on it, I just want to go slap myself for being so dumb. So not taking my career seriously and getting started right out of school was one of the dumbest financial mistakes I made in my 20s. But eventually I did get my act together. I went out, I got my first professional job. My very first job, I remember, I think the starting salary was something like $32,000 or $33,000 a year. Not amazing, but not bad. That leads to the next big financial mistake I made in my 20s, buying a brand new car. You see, when I got that first professional job, really starting my career in my chosen field, I was driving around a beater of a car. This thing was falling apart. I've had the CD player stolen at least 2 or 3 times. The doors didn't even lock anymore. So when I got that job, one of the first things I did is I ran out and I bought a brand new 2007 Ford Mustang. Now, I want to say I loved that car. I enjoyed every day I had driving it.
Oh, look at him, he's hugging his car. He's hugging his car. Congratulations.
But it was one of the worst financial mistakes I could have made. I just started making real money, and I went out and I bought I think I paid about $24,000 or $25,000 for that car. I immediately saddled myself with a $325 a month car payment. I cleaned out my entire savings account to put down the down payment on that car. So I put myself in this big financial hole. Yes, I really needed a car, but I could have gone and paid $5,000 or $6,000 for a really reliable, good enough used car, but instead I went out and spent over $20,000, almost a full year's salary. Probably when you factor in interest and all that sort of things, I ended up paying more than a year's salary for this car. So as you can imagine, all that money I was wasting on that car was money I was not saving, I was not investing, and like I keep saying, getting started young is one of the keys. So I just kept delaying that financial success by wasting all this money on a car. Now the third dumb financial mistake I made in my 20s was paying way too much for an apartment. Now all through college I lived in the dorms, I lived in rented houses with like 6 of my friends, but when I got out of school, I could have continued renting an apartment with a person or two, saving a lot of money, sharing the rent, but instead I went out, got myself my own 1-bedroom apartment, and ended up paying way more than I should have to just be living on my own.
What's up, y'all? Big Snoop Deal Double G. I want to welcome y'all to my house, the dog house. Slide in.
Like I said, I already had that $325 a month car payment, and now I went out, I got a 1-bedroom apartment. The rent at the time was $475 a month, which may not sound like a lot of money to a lot of people, but this was 10 or 15 years ago. I live in a relatively low cost of living city, so now I'm up to almost $800 per month just on this apartment and my car. Again, I'm only making about $30,000 a year at this point. So a huge chunk of my monthly income is already gone. And really, I was even overpaying for what it was. It had one heater that heated the whole unit. So once you got back into the bathroom and where the bedroom was, the heat didn't make it that far. I live in Buffalo, New York. It gets kind of cold in the winter. So, in those winter months, back in the bedroom trying to sleep, it got frigid in there. I had to go buy a separate space heater just so I wouldn't freeze to death when I was sleeping. Also, I lived right above this really old lady who smoked like 3 or 4 packs a day of cigarettes in her apartment. So all of that smoke would just waft up into my apartment. It was disgusting. So I could have been renting a place with a friend or two, got my cost of living down to, $150, $200 a month tops if I'm sharing a place. But instead, I'm paying 3 to 4 more times that, and I'm cold and I'm inhaling cigarette smoke all day long. The fourth dumb financial mistake that I made in my 20s was one a lot of people make. I just spent way too much money. So I was really lucky. I graduated college without any student loan debt, but I did have a mild amount of credit card debt at the time. Instead of focusing and paying that off and getting myself in a good place, I just kept spending money.
I'm asking you to be okay not spending money that I don't have.
Going out all the time to bars and whatever with my friends. I would spend the summers going to literally hundreds of concerts all over the place. Outside of the expensive apartment, the brand new car, all this money I was spending, I was not saving anything. Now, I was sort of lucky. I did have a few small investments that I still had from when I began investing in high school, and I added to a little bit while I was in college. So at the end of the day, when I finally got my act together, I was able to sell a good chunk of those investments, pay off my credit card debt, and get myself square. But I could have kept up those investments, let them grow, and just, not spent as much money on going out to eat or going to bars or going to all these concerts and all the other stuff I was wasting money on. If I just cut back on all that stuff a little, I could have been in a much stronger financial position and held on to all the investments that I started really young. So spending my money really frivolously was a dumb financial mistake that I made in my 20s, and probably the most common one there is for everybody. So if you're enjoying this little trip down memory lane with me and hearing about all the stupid things I did when I was younger, give this video a like down below. It'll tell YouTube to show this video to other people, and it'll tell me you like this kind of content, and I'll put out more videos where I just sit here and roast myself. So if that's something you're into, hit the like button, subscribe, do do all the YouTube things. Also, I'd love to hear about any dumb financial mistakes that you made in your 20s or 30s or 40s. So leave me a comment down below, get in on the fun, let me know how you screwed up with your money when you were younger. It's not all bad though. I did have the education and the financial literacy where I was able to fix those mistakes rather quickly. When I did get that first professional job, I knew enough to immediately start investing in my 401k, getting the employer match, all those sort of things. While I was spending too much and I did make these mistakes, what little I did have left over in my paycheck, I was sure to save in a savings account. I tried to hold on to as many of the investments that I made back in my high school days as possible. I tried to add to those, whenever I built up enough in my savings account to move some over. So I was doing some good things with the bad things. And once I fixed those mistakes, I got myself on the right track. Things improved dramatically pretty quickly. So even if you're young or not so young, if you're doing some stupid things with your money, you're making some dumb financial moves, hope isn't lost. You can stop doing them, you can fix them, and you can turn things around rather quickly. And the first way you can start doing that is by clicking on the 2 videos that will be popping up in a second. They'll make you better with your money. I hope to see you over there.